generally speaking, when a case is appealed to the county, the defendant comes out ahead. That's the motivation for going. You don't, it doesn't cost you anything, you move it up to the county, and chances are you're gonna get a dismissal, you're gonna get a lower fine. It just works out better for them. If the municipal court is a municipal court of record, then we retain the case. The defendant still has the right to appeal, but they can appeal de novo, which means the court at Denton County would retry it as a brand new trial. They'd forget anything that we did, they'd start all over. They don't try it de novo, they would only consider judicial error or constitutional problems with the ordinance that was being enforced. It's a much higher standard. And what that does is retain the case here in the court that we've prosecuted. It retains the fines in our local court because our local court is the one that's incurring the prosecutorial expense.
So what happens because we're not a court of record, if we have, whatever we do here, you appeal it to the county, then what we did doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It never happened. And the county gets to decide, you know what, that's a waste of our time. We don't care. It's Lakewood Village. We don't care. They get to do whatever they want because it's brand new. It's what we didn't happen. It's de novo. It's brand new. And whatever they decide, we don't get it. We're out. We're out of the loop. Like we never happened. If you're a court of record, which all we have to do is record the process. All we have to do is have a recording. If it's a recording, then if you go to appeal to Denton County, it's an appeal court. You got to say they made a mistake, and the mistake was, this, and they evaluate whether or not it's a regular appeal. This was the mistake, yes or no. They don't care whether or not they agree with Lakewood Village or whether they would have prosecuted. None of that matters. We did. So your only thing they can decide is, yes, that was an error. You applied the law incorrectly, or no, you did apply. So most people, if you're a court of record, if you go to an attorney, the attorney's going to say, man, I've got to now find like a reversible error. I've got to now, it's a much, much higher standard. You've got to find out where they did something wrong. And it's just a much higher standard to go through, and most people won't do it because it's going to cost you a lot more. Because the attorney knows what, look, if you had tall weeds and grass and we wrote you, a citation and they've got pictures and it's 38 inches tall,
there's no basis.
What are you going to appeal? Whereas right now, you could go to Denton County and say, look, I was away on vacation. They go, oh, sounds good to me. You know what? Did you mow it? Yeah, we did mow it. Yeah, then screw it. And we did nothing. We paid for our attorney to go to our court. We've spent money and we did nothing. So it's a pretty minimal effort on our part to become a court of record. All we have to do is record it. And we've had court one time in my 12 years.
In 12 years, we've only had to have the judge here
one time in 12 years. So there's nothing, it's implemented by an ordinance, right?
Yes. Council would have to pass an ordinance establishing a municipal court of record. And that would repeal the ordinance that we have establishing a municipal court because it's a different function. We would have to record the proceedings, and then there's an extra expense if it's appealed. If the defendant requires a transcript, we do have to hire an official.
I thought they have to pay for that.
They do have to pay the fee, but we do have to, there's that extra step.
So the recording is a court recorder, not a video recording.
No, we can do a video recording. We don't have to do the transcript unless that's requested or required by the appeals court.
So but you pay for that. All we're required to do is have a recording.
So there's no approval by any other entity?
No, the state isn't required to approve it. Okay. Another thing to consider too, when cases are appealed to Denton County, let me back it up. When we prosecute cases here, I do everything in my power to keep things out of court. I'm making phone calls, I'm knocking on your door, I'm saying hey, I'm sending an email. We try to be as friendly and as user-friendly and as neighborly as possible. Sending you a letter requiring you to come to court and talk to the prosecutor or the judge is the absolute last resort. That means you are just not playing nice, you just absolutely refuse to be compliant, no matter what. We have a lot more invested, the town has a lot more invested in whatever the case is, if we've brought you to court. That means it's important to us. Something is going wrong. When it goes to the county level, they have no investment in it. Does not matter to them if your grass is too high. It doesn't matter to them if your dog is a nuisance. It doesn't, it's just another case.
In their defense, it may not matter to, say
It can't matter to them.
their priorities on what they have going
True.
on.
So we're not, by doing this, we're not really taking away any of our citizens' rights, if you will.
Absolutely
They can
not.
still appeal it.
They can still appeal.
It's just,
Okay.
it's gonna cost them to appeal it, versus now it's not.
Well,
No,
it
you still pay for the
costs them.
attorney.
Yeah, it still costs them.
They just have to have a
It's,
basis for.
they just, it establishes a higher standard for that appeal, rather than a whim, I don't like this judge's decision, I'm gonna roll the dice and see what I can get here. You have to meet a certain standard. So it protects the town. It's not about taking away their right, they still have the right to appeal.
Right.
But it protects the town interest by keeping the case here.
If we've only had the judge come out here once in 12 years,
Yep,
why do we feel this is necessary?
because the cost is virtually zero. So why not do it? If there's only upside, there's no
Because
downside.
there is cost involved in prosecution. We did incur cost, because the case was important to the town.
But
mattered
now
to our
it cost
community.
one time in
It
12
did only
years,
cost one
right?
time, but it's a lesson learned. And it was appealed to county. And it's a lesson learned that we need y'all should consider putting this in place. You can make the decision if you want it. Maybe your decision is it's only happened once in 12 years. We don't want to mess with it.
Well, we
or
also have
we
to make
can
these
say,
decisions based on
Ahead
what
of
might happen.
time,
Yeah.
we don't know what's coming around the corner, we can have it in place now. Historically, but like I said, before 2007, the court was extremely active, and there were a lot of appeals.
Well, and as
I
we
don't know
grow,
that
this
may
might
change.
happen more too.
Well, I mean, look,
It may
let's,
change in the
true.
future.
let's be practical for a second, okay? Do you, in Denton County, up there, Corinth, Little Elm, Lakewood Village, all these things, do you really think anything that happens in Lakewood Village, if it got to Denton County, where they would have to expend any resources at all, do you think they would spend anything on Lakewood Village? The answer is no. We've already seen it. That's what happened. They don't care. That's just the
Maybe
reality.
it's the kind of relationships we have with those people.
No,
that-
that's the
No,
prosecutor.
Well, regardless,
There
I
can't be a relationship.
I think we need to
Separate.
take action
know.
to protect the city's interests,
Yeah.
whether it happens one time or 20 times. You never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. And it's no cost, and why would we wanna do it?
Well, again, there's no ordinance here. This is just this is a discussion because it's an issue. It's an issue that we just ran into. We've never had anybody ever appeal to Denton County. It's never happened. We always knew they could, but we never had anybody do it. And now that they have done it, and we spent,
So this was recent?
yes, this was this year.
Okay.
And it
That's
involve-
why.
and it-
I'm just trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
that's what I meant,
like-
because it just happened, so,
Okay, 12 years,
It's
one
a-
time, so now it makes sense to me. If this
Right.
just recently happened.
right, it's a lesson learned.
Okay,
It's
that
something that
makes
could have
sense.
been different had we had the municipal court of record in place beforehand. So that's why we're giving you the option to consider it now.
in this case, it involved-
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have, Clint, do we have the internet? No?
I do have that ordinance, I got it before,
Okay.
lost it.
All right, so next up, we have a discussion of the zoning ordinance. This is a continuation of this big document, kind of, going through it, and just basically opening, kind of the floor up if there are any areas where you have questions about, you've gone through, or anything that.
I think, Mark, you and I had our changes that we talked through last month. I didn't put anything new, and I don't think you did, so.
Yeah, the only thing that we were, one of the things talked about the setbacks in portable buildings.
Right.
And it was, because part of what we're looking at right now is that, part of it we have to be practical. In that some of the things we've inherited, and, so we could say right now, you can't have anything in that setback, but drive over here and you'll see people have 20 different, those little storage things up against the fence. Which makes it perfectly logical. If you had one you stick in the backyard, who's going to set it 12 feet off the fence? You're going to lean it up against next to the fence, get it out of the way. So part of what we're trying to do is be practical and realize the realities of where we are. At the same time, not letting anything go crazy that you put a 30 by 20 foot building with lights and in the setback. So that's kind of why I brought up that issue, that we'd allowed kind of portable stuff to be there because it's not permanent. And that's different than what we had before. It used to be something like it had to be open from the ground to the sky. Literally nothing could be there. And so I think that's an area of emphasis that I think we need to be clear on. And so, I guess that's really, I don't want to dwell on it. I just want everybody to kind of look at that stuff in the setback. There are issues, I had somebody come to me and they asked me, look, I want to get a greenhouse. I want to buy a greenhouse because I want to cover some of my trees and whatever. And they legitimately, and they said, do I have to make it masonry? I mean, do I have to, is that and what am I going to tell them? It's like, well, no.
I don't think it's a greenhouse if you do that.
But yeah, but read the zoning, well, it's a building, what I mean? So, those are the kind of things that, now I'd like to be able to say, no. Greenhouses are exempt, because that's stupid. Or somebody wanted to know, it was over here on Hillside, can I put a garden in my side yard? Like, sure, why not?
That's not even a building.
Well, but I'm going to have, like stuff for the plants to grow on, like
Sticks or.
I don't want to call them trellis, whatever they are,
Yeah.
stuff. And they said, can I put that in the side yard? Well, yeah, but really, what I mean? So we've reached the point where I think we can now tweak it to handle, the first iteration was going from 0 to 90. And it was 1 billion hours of work to get there. Now we're tweaking on the margin areas where, why not? And so that's an example of a couple of these things that I would like to fix. Just so it's clear that, yeah, of course not. So I urge you to, kind of look through there and see if there's anything like that and say, can we have an exception for this kind of thing? Like I think I looked at one thing where it said, like something about flagpoles. Well, there's a difference between a flagpole that's attached to your house and a flagpole that's freestanding. And it didn't distinguish between those two. But that's different.
Yeah.
But that's just something I saw and said, wait a minute, if I want to hang a flagpole, off the front of my porch shed, that's not even in there. So anyway, we're going to put, what I want to do, the reason why this keeps showing up is at some point soon, we're going to look at all the changes, and we're going to put out a mailing. and to mail out to every citizen and say, here are the changes that we're proposing. So I want everybody to, you know, when that time comes, I want everybody to say, look, you have 5 chances to put anything you want to be in this mailer to change. So we're on board,
Right.
okay? Because we're not going to go to the expense of mailing out to every single citizen and come back and then say, you know what, I don't like that, or this, or
No, we should be united.
we have to kind of reach a consensus.
We can't vote on it until the night we vote on it. The night that we vote on it, the outcome really is expected to pass, right? Because by the time
Right.
we want to,
Where's this draft?
It's on the cloud. I mean, Clint can email it to you.
wait,
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not in the packet from last month or this month, so the changes, like where you, I know it's in here, but the
Yeah.
proposed
Can you
changes.
send that to all of us?
No.
Yeah, we've been working on the cloud, that's what, I'll get you guys, yeah.
actually, Linda, we send it if everybody wants it.
But, you know, the reason, the zoning ordinance itself is always up there on the net, right? You can go through the
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah, the zoning is there, but not, but I can't tell what we're trying to change.
Yeah,
from it.
you know, there's been a handful of these, but yeah.
Where we're at now is what we're really asking is anybody else that has changes they want to do.
Because we're kind of,
We haven't really got to the point where, okay, let's go through this and read and say, okay, everything, line by line, go, this change versus this change, and tweak the wording. We're just, at this point, trying to collect whatever little changes that everybody wants.
and let me be, you know, even though you guys can propose anything you want, I don't see anything which is like, this whole section needs to be gutted, or I'm doing more of tweaking, where, you know, like, this looks really good, but there's an exception, you know, like, like, well, you know, instead of having, you know, 2 trees, you know, why don't we make it 3? Or, you know, but having trees is a given.
Right.
You know, it's minor little things, but it just makes it easier for us.
The items that Mark shared with us too, that we approved variances on, we've gone in and inserted those. So what we're trying to do is get to a point where, okay, we go through the whole thing, here's this edit, here's this edit. Right now, we're just getting everybody's feedback and trying to get it collected.
Right.
So that's why it's not in the packet yet. We're still trying to get to a point that we're ready to show all those edits.
I'm not looking to open up the discussion on sections of town and how big the lot sizes should be, and section 3 and 4 and the zoning map, and I'm not looking to go there. I think that's all okay. Okay?
So why, I'm just curious, why is this ordinance so damn long?
Legal reasons, and because property
It's
lines,
actually not that long compared to other
we
cities.
cut a lot of stuff out.
There's
You know,
there's a lot of things you can govern that we don't.
But compared to our ordinances, it's long.
Well, let me give you an example,
It's not
because
complicated.
let me give you an example. Kevin's not here. But let me give you an example of one thing that some cities in their zoning ordinance don't allow you to rent your house.
Really?
It's in the zoning ordinance. It's land use. You're not allowed to use your land to rent your house. Now, I think that's wrong. The Supreme Court said it's wrong. Supreme Court of Texas. Okay. But that's an example of stuff that's in zoning. We don't have that. But zoning is about how you use your land. So if it's not in there, if we didn't have something in there which says you can't have a windmill or a wind turbine, first guy in gets it. So the first guy doesn't say I can't. He puts in an 85-foot tall wind turbine in the middle of a hillside. You can't make him take it down. He's vested.
Yeah.
So,
Architecture standards like your lighting ordinance could be in the zoning ordinance, so take all your pages and add it to this, so.
Yeah.
so it's a very complicated, it just covers a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, actually, I mean, there's several sections that are just the rules about how you can go about change zoning. And the rules associated with annexing, and the rules associated about new development, so.
Okay.
When it actually gets to the content of what we're land use, it's not that much. Many of the sections are the overhead of actually what's behind and what you can and can't do.
Okay. Okay, next up, so we have a financial report. So let me, full disclosure here. So Liz had asked for the year-to-date financials and the the last fiscal year's numbers. But the auditor was here. So I didn't see, we're going to get the audited, adjusted numbers in 3 weeks when the auditor's here. So we didn't put in the unadjusted, unaudited QuickBooks numbers for last year because it's pointless. They're not adjusted yet. So all this is the year-to-date for now.
For the new fiscal year.
Yeah, so we'll see the real the real annual numbers audited next month. Okay.
But we're gonna be including this every month for us, moving forward?
It's your item.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about it?
No, I just, well, I mean, I don't have, no, I mean, everything is still, you know, under budget, so as long, I think the discussion has to happen when we see, when it's getting close to reaching budget or over.
Well,
But
I think,
having this, but having, you know, seeing this every month kind of helps you see where you're going, where it's at.
yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, this is 1 month into the fiscal year. The odds of us being over after 1 month is like
Like
zero.
tonight, right?
So that's why usually if you're going to do a monthly thing, it's a very high level until you get later on in the year. Because right now, there's no chance that we're going to inadvertently pay Linda 26 paychecks in her first month of the year. You know, it's very unlikely. So typically these things are very high level. You know, tell me an action item you would take looking at these numbers. There isn't any. It's 1 month in, every number is lower than the budget. Of course, but it's not 1/12 either. It's you know, because things are cyclical, right?
Right.
Still, it's good information.
You know, so this is kind of, you know, good news so far. I've gotten 0 in property taxes.
Hell of a deal.
Okay,
Thank you for including this.
so there you go.
An executive session then?
We are going to go into executive session. All right, is that it? Okay, executive session 5510712. Texas Government Code of Constitution, town attorney on a matter with the duty of the attorney to government body and Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct, state bar, clearly includes this chapter to receive legal advice regarding property damage claim involving public services. Number 2, 5510722 Texas Government Code, deliberations about real property. 3, 5510887 Texas Government Code to wit, economic development negotiations. And 4, Texas Government Code to wit, deliberations about security devices. Okay, so we're going to go into executive session now at 9:06. Okay.
Oh, wait, thanks. Hey, Dan. How are you doing? Good.